So I was catching the replay of our resume workshop, and I just had to jump in myself and just say, "Wow, it was a great panel. Thanks to Crain, thanks to Vox Media, thanks to the New Yorker for letting your awesome recruiters come and talk to us about these jobs, give us some good practical tips on resumes." This next video actually has an example of a good resume and a bad resume. So make sure you stick around and check that out. Also, make sure you look down in the comments or in the link for the links, the post for links to the jobs. You know what I'm trying to say. Look down in the post for links to the jobs. Also, make sure you catch us next week. There should be a link in the comments to a Zoom link for next Thursday. I'm going to lead a panel on podcasts and a digital discussion about social media and representation. So that's next Thursday, 7 p.m. Check again the comments for the links. And also make sure you check out part 3 of this awesome resume panel. Some resume do's and don'ts. They'll talk about some of the jobs they actually have. And be sure you catch us next Thursday for the podcast discussion. It's going to be real laid back. So, bring a cocktail and all that. Come ready to, have a good time and talk about Black people in these digital spaces. See you next time.
But just a few things in terms of just like looking at this very quickly. Like the formatting is off. So essentially like the strike through line is through some of the information that's on here, just looking at it. Also just basic too, this is an editorial role, and there really isn't anything in this resume that's saying anything about editorial or writing or the position that they're referencing as well. So just thinking about that. Also, as I mentioned earlier, with an editorial resume, that's always great. If you can actually put a link to your clips or your work, that's also super helpful, because once again, people want to see examples of your writing. So, obviously the cover letter being there, if you could also put in, the links to your work, and just thinking about the overall formatting, how it looks, how it reads. But I would say this would be an example to me of a resume that just really wasn't as, it wasn't as thought through. The attention to detail wasn't there. And as someone that was applying for a job that really just didn't make sense, for them and their backgrounds. So that'd be like my one example of a poor resume. And I'm going to stop. And like in contrast to the other resume, this one specifically outlines and showcases and shows specifically the roles within editorial that they've worked in beforehand, right? So the formatting is correct. They didn't do too much in terms of making it too cute. They've also added an objective section as well to kind of talk a little bit more about specifically what they've done beforehand, and also what they're looking to do as well within this space. They've also had, it's very clean and clear. So they've really identified different sections, whether it be their skills, their education, their experience. So it's easy to read, especially as a recruiter or someone who's going through here. It's not all jumbled together where you're trying to figure out and make sense of, which section is which. And then also at the bottom, they also put clear links to their social media as well. So there's different ways to find them, search for them. If you wanted to go to their LinkedIn, they have their information there, phone number, etc., and links to their social. So obviously this is just a lot cleaner resume in terms of formatting. It wasn't an issue of like the color that's added in there. It's just the formatting, it's the thought, it's the attention to detail. It's also about like the clarity in terms of having like their previous positions on there, and also knowing specifically the role that they're applying for. Because a lot of times we'll see a resume and it's just it'll be a plumber who's applying for an editorial role, right? And you see that, and you're just thinking like you really didn't think too much about the role in and of itself, and why why you thought you'd be a good person, like why your background would actually be aligned for this position. So just wanted to share 2 different resumes, 2 different looks, 2 different approaches. I know something that I think Sandra talked about this earlier, but this person was able to really fit all their experience onto one page. Obviously, if you're getting up into your years of experience, if you start getting into that second page, it makes sense, right? Like, it's using your better judgment in terms of like your positions, also thinking through, if you have duplicate kind of bullets, right? So if you've done the same type of job responsibilities at multiple jobs, you don't have to list it more than one time, right? Like at the end of the day, if we're seeing that you've been a staff writer in 4 or 5 different roles or positions, you don't have to list the same bullet for each individual one, because we've assumed you've already done that. So there's ways to kind of get around, creating more space on your resume, still having the information there, still having the detail on there, and still having it clear and sectioned off where it's easy to read. It's easy for us to figure out, kind of like specifically, what you've done, what you're doing, and also for us to envision you in this role, and also to showcase you to a hiring manager.
Super helpful. Thank you so much. And I noticed, and like you said, like that second resume was a bit more creative, and we had what do you? Okay, so we have someone, they just asked, where do you find great editorial resume templates?
There's something called Resume Viking that has like a bunch of templates. I don't I haven't had a chance to look at it like super deeply, but it looked like they had some clean, kind of decently formatted things on there. But if you guys talk, I'll like look around for a couple other things. I normally design my own, so
Okay, we'll take the pressure off. I'm gonna throw it over to James, which is next to you in my boxes. And James, do you have any thoughts on where you can find good resume templates, or any thoughts on graphics? Someone mentioned, we have a question here, but there was one on top that was just like, do certain employers, not like having more graphics on a resume? Like, how do you know if it's going to be an okay thing to put on your resume?
I guess I'm more interested in content, and I know that graphics are more important in the design realm. The last person I sent a resume to is Lisa Vazzetti about 20 months ago, and I went online and I looked at the 1.3 billion resume building sites that are out there. Some are free, some are not. I'm not going to be helpful in the response to this. I really like a cover letter that describes your passion and your interest. I like a resume that makes me want to meet you. Maybe a purist in that regard. So I just think, and I like the resumes that Emmanuel showed. I also like when you're listing skills on your resume, I like to know about what you can do as opposed to the platforms that you can master. So this is really not an answer to resume templates, but if you're a good feature writer or a hard news writer, or you are wonderful at languages, if you're a gourmet cook, I'll take one interesting thing like that. I just really want to get to know you. So I'm really not that concerned about format. I'm focused on content. And there are a number of people like me in my business, but I understand it's important to get a good, clean idea of what a resume is. And that's what it is for me. It's good and it's clean and it's to the point. No unnecessary words. I wish I had brought some, but not mine.
I would say like keeping it clean is probably your best option. Don't go too crazy.
The only time where sometimes with graphics is if you are good at making a data visualization, a data viz, and you can create a graphic that somehow shows some of your skills. That can be an interesting thing to put on there. But no, I mean, the graphics, they're fine, but sometimes they just get in the way and they take up room. I'd rather, like James was saying, everybody else, we'd rather see what you can do and what you have done that's going to tell the story about what you're passionate about and what you want to do.
Can I add just one more thing? If in the world of college admission letters, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, applicants are coached to tell something about themselves or some life struggle that they got through. I mean, something like that is more in the order of helping us know who you are. And it could be a struggle that you got through, and now you're dedicated to journalism, or you really want to get this job. So it's doing more than just a straight pro forma business writing exercise. I like skills, I like passion, I like experiences, because you really are a person.
Is it frowned upon if you do have similar experience, such as staff writer at multiple places, but you're applying for something different at the place you're applying to? So I'm thinking they're applying for similar roles at the same company.
Yeah, I would stay away from, or because we see this a lot, and I do see this a lot. If you're applying at company X, so let's say it's Vox Media, like if you're applying for, let's say, a staff writer role, but then you're applying for an account director of sales position, that to me would show like a lack of like direction and focus in terms of what you're looking to do. If you're applying, if you're applying for another editorial role within that space, like, so let's say it's a staff writer, maybe the other one is like an associate writer, like something like that, where it's almost like a one for one, maybe the title's different. I think you have more of a chance there. I would also pay attention to like the vertical, because a lot of times I see people just kind of just blanket applying, and I get that you might be a writer, but your focus might not be in that area. So like, you know, if we're looking for someone who's working in technology, who's a technology reporter, and you've always worked on maybe, you know, finance, right? So it isn't a like for like transition unless you can show in a cover letter or some other way, or other clips that you've done, maybe you freelance and done other work where you can say, hey, this is what I've done on the side. This is the type of work that I've done outside of what I've done for work, where you can show that you do have those type of chops. So that when they're looking at it, they're saying, oh, okay, well, maybe you've only worked in this area, but you have done some other stuff, or you have this other experience there. So I feel like that's where you could make the transition, but I would stay away from applying to, you know, 9, 10 jobs at a company, and they're just so spread across the board. You know, one is in technology, one is a writer. Like, I think that shows a lack of, like, once again, I understand we're all in a period where people just want jobs, you want to prove yourself, but you also want to show that you know you have a direction, you know the type of roles that you're looking for, instead of just blanket applying.
How should one convey how seasoned you are with vast experience and not get discriminated against with ageism? I have already removed my graduation years from my colleges, but don't want to be counted out automatically for a position.
There's no reason why anybody would not want to have somebody, a seasoned reporter on their staff. So I don't really see that as an issue. The only problem could be is if what you've been doing most recently is kind of separate from what the role is. If it's looks like it's more of an entry level position, and you've been doing senior editorial work, there's going to be that disconnect as to what the job is and not that matching up. But yeah, we'd like to see that you've been in the field, in the industry for years, and that you have that good experience. You can kind of combine roles a little bit if they're at the same publication, same brand. So if you're looking to eliminate some of the space or break things down. And I would also just throw in here that resumes really are like art. Everybody likes different things, and you're going to hear shouldn't be over one page. Don't do this, don't do that. It's what works for you and what you feel really reflects your personality and what you're proud of. We're looking at them online. I don't have a problem with more than one page if it has good content on it. So, it is always good to hear all the different opinions, though. That's great.
So as we're wrapping up, we promised with our NYABJ audience that there are some job openings that you guys could talk about. So Lisa, would you like to go first in sharing some of yours that you have at your company?
Yeah, we at Crain.com/careers is our website where we've got everything posted. The New York roles that are open right now are with Ad Age. So I'll let James talk about those, but we do have positions. If you're open outside of Chicago, outside of New York, we have Chicago, Detroit, real estate reporter, content editor. Actually, the content editor could be remote. And then Ramika, you're working on a couple spots too.
Yes, I have reporter opportunities with automotive news, and they're touching base a little bit on automotive finance. On Ad Age, we're looking for a web editor. So that's kind of a big one that I'm working on right now. A couple of marketing opportunities. So definitely around content, digital space and things like that. So there are a variety of different roles that we have all across the board.
We do also get a lot of custom content ones, which while they may not be in editorial, they're still writing. And we have quite a few digital marketing roles too in New York.
With Ad Age, if they're not posted right now, we've just filled a couple of positions. Yeah. There will be additional openings later in the year for a reporter to cover advertising agencies like Mad Men. It's kind of an interesting beat. Each agency is like a little city filled with, all the types of stories you might get. And taken together, advertising agencies are really a reflection of, like I said before, society and culture. We also will have an opening for an advertising technology reporter, which is called Ad Tech. So you've probably heard that Google is doing away with third-party cookies, and they've just delayed that for a year. Just today they announced that. But third-party cookies and the other ways that brands and marketers keep track of you. And when you look for a rain boot and the rain boot follows you around your digital world for the rest of your life, all that is accomplished by advertising technology. And that's a fascinating but challenging beat. And as Ramika said, we are looking for a web editor, somebody who can help us to manage our adage.com with content and design and interactive elements. It's a fun job. It's exhausting, but we have those three open, and we'd be happy.
And a digital director.
A digital director as well, which is the person that supervises the web editor. So we are putting some firepower on the website, which, by the way, in our revenue category, just won a Neal Award for best website. So it's a good place to work. And all of these jobs, we want everybody to develop journalism skills that are movable throughout the industry. And a good experience with any company, Ad Age included, is that you are learning like drinking water from a fire hydrant. That's a good relationship. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, so obviously right now we have tons of jobs on the editorial side, also on the marketing and content side. I focus more on revenue. So say within the revenue space, we have a ton of marketing jobs that are open now. Also, there's a ton of jobs that are also going to open up, and will open up as soon as we close a few more jobs. The way that we do things, we prioritize 10 jobs for each recruiter at one point in time. And then we also have jobs behind that are also waiting on deck to be prioritized that we're going to start working on. So definitely, if you don't see anything on our website now that falls within that space, it does not mean that we won't have those type of jobs coming up, whether it's on the marketing side or editorial side. There's tons of jobs that will be coming up that we're definitely looking to fill. We're looking for amazing talent. We're also looking to make sure that we are partnering with different groups, obviously NYABJ, definitely being one of them, and figuring out the best ways to find ways to hire, talent from these different groups and communities as well. But I definitely want to stress that we do have tons of editorial roles to fill, and definitely just making sure that we want to make sure that we are that we're ingratiating ourselves in different communities, meeting new talent, finding new opportunities, and finding different ways to hopefully hire some of you who are on this call, or if you're not on this call, but maybe you're catching this later on the rebroadcast of this as well, finding ways to also hire you too. So I definitely want to stress that we have tons of roles that are open, that we're looking for great talent.
We're always looking for talented writers, editors, copy editors, you name it, across multiple different beats and across multiple different networks. So you'll see the depth and breadth of that on our website. And I would say, if you don't see something, feel free to join our talent community so that you can deposit your resume there, and you will be a part of the community. And so we'll have access to you, and you will come up in our searches when we're reviewing our ATS for our talent.
And Sandra, over at the New Yorker, any opportunities open?
Yeah, there's actually a few. I'm personally looking for a front-end developer right now, but there are definitely editorial roles open. There's a couple of juicy ones. One is for a fact checker role, which is like a great, it's a great role to be in and kind of get like foot in the door. And I see a lot of fact checkers kind of moving up and around within the organization. So that's a good one. There's a senior editor position open at the New Yorker. There's I'm just like sort of scanning the job site. It's condenast.com/careers. There's also an art assistant. I know we want to probably stick with editorial. So I would encourage everyone to have a look. I've noticed them kind of going on a bit of a hiring tear.
We really appreciate you guys coming in this evening and teaching us a whole lot about resumes, cover letters, portfolios, and learning about your job openings. So we really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your evening. And thank you. And for our NYABJ folks, just letting you guys know, we are going to be having our cookout in August. So stay tuned for more details on that. We're getting ready for the NABJ convention. So we'll be kicking it off, and we'll be sending out some emails about that. And Thank you guys again, and have a great rest of your evening.
I got 2 seconds.
Advance.
I
Come
got
on
30
in.
seconds.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for participating tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but thank you all so much to the members. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. I'm going to make an announcement in the next couple of days to our panelists. Thank you all so much. So everybody, I'm glad I was able to at least come in and close out. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you all so much. Good night.
Bye.
Second.